Greetings and salutations, everybody. Quick shout out to the two Uber comrades on Patreon supporting my channel, my partner. Thank you, Rosa, and Independent Left News. Definitely check out Independent Left News. They're a great resource. My kiddo would like a shout out, but she's not an Uber comrade, so she's not getting one at this point in time.
But I'm a perfect daughter. And yes, I know my hair looks like I'm Frankenstein.
She's still not an Uber comrade, so I'm not shouting her out for those purposes. So it was pretty interesting that El Salvador, the president there, made the switch for the country to adopt Bitcoin as the legal currency, legal tender there, and to pretty underwhelming response, frankly. Like, they've had a number of issues. It seems like a majority of the country didn't want that. That's what the polls have shown, at least. There have been protests, actually. And it seems like the first protest against the El Salvadorian president, what is his name? Bukele, Nayib Bukele, kind of the first protest seemed to have started once this change was implemented with, Bitcoin becoming the legal currency there. And then, so we're going to look at an article that kind of talks about that, and then also about how actually Bitcoin is a scam. The Gravel Institute. I don't care for all their stuff, but they did make a pretty good video about why Bitcoin is a scam. So also check that out. But first, let's look at this article kind of detailing some of the unrest that's happening in El Salvador right now, with regards to this. This is from leftvoice.org, pretty good site. I'll link it down below, this particular article. El Salvador, Bitcoin machine burned and thousands take to the streets against authoritarian government. So Wednesday, this was last week. Thousands took to the streets of El Salvador to protest President Nayib Bukele. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing their name. Please let me know if I am. There's somebody there. Burn in the background. You see the no Bitcoin, no to Bitcoin. Workers, students, union and peasant orgs, feminist groups, human rights activists, and even judges. Yeah, I saw in a different article actually from the AP, a former Supreme Court Justice of El Salvador was out protesting as well. Even judges took to the streets on Wednesday in El Salvador. It was the country's largest mobilization in decades. Among the issues being protested were the Salvadoran president Nayib Bukele's decision to double the number of military troops under the pretext of fighting violence and crime again. How many times does this need to be explained? Cops, military, like, that's not going to address the issues of crime. What causes crime is people's material conditions being so subpar, so substandard that they have to commit crime in order to have their material conditions met. You want to reduce crime, you improve their material conditions by investing in things like jobs, housing, healthcare, mental health, etc. Right? In reality, it's about gaining support and surrounding himself with the armed forces. In addition, Bukele's Bitcoin law has been widely rejected by people all over the country. As I said before, majority of people in El Salvador don't support this change that the president made. The law makes Bitcoin legal tender across the country, while the president claims this measure will make it easier for people in El Salvador to spend money abroad. Many believe it will bring inflation, even greater instability again. Like, there can be these massive upswings and dips in the value of Bitcoin. And then, so that's obviously going to be affecting and impacting these people in El Salvador if Bitcoin is now the legal, currency or tender there. At the protest, people set fire to Bitcoin machines amidst the mass marches. The government has proposed more than 200 changes to the Constitution, leading to this outcry against authoritarianism. One of the changes being protested is a constitutional reform that would concentrate power in the hands of the president. It's obviously not good. That does seem, pretty authoritarian. Specifically allows the president to seek re-election despite a constitutional limit on running consecutively. Another judicial reform would promote judges aligned with the ruling party and dismiss all dissidents. Seems pretty problematic, right? Further, Bukele fired a judge in charge of investigating the genocide of El Mozote in 1980s. As ProPublica highlighted, quote, Judge Jorge Guzman has spent the last 6 years painstakingly gathering evidence from the survivors of one of the worst massacres in modern history of Latin America, the slaughter of 1,000 old men, women, and children by the Salvadoran army during the country's civil war. Just 2 weeks ago, the legislature controlled by Bukele fired every judge in the country older than 60. Guzman is 61. Like, there seemed to be a lot of other really shady shit that this, Bukele government is partaking, besides just, this ridiculous thing of, changing the country's legal currency to Bitcoin, which does seem very obviously problematic as well, right? So lots of reasons for people, especially the, working class in El Salvador, to, be out in the streets, protesting this, authoritarian, creep that's happening there. Let's see, this one, among many authoritarian measures taken by Bukele, who has consistently fired judges who don't agree with him. The demonstrators' banners carry messages like no to presidential election, no to Bitcoin, no to militarization, no to dictatorship. And without judicial independence, there are no guarantees for the defense of human rights. Bukele counts on the military support, thus demonstrating the Bonapartization of the political regime that he is increasingly designing in his own likeness. For this reason, most of the demonstrators maintain that in the face of an authoritarian regime, such as the Salvadoran one, the only option for the population is to go out and protest to defend their rights and their freedoms, which is what they have been doing, right? The new day of mobilization highlights the authoritarian character and anti-democratic measures that Bukele represents, but also the conditions that plague the vast majority of the population, such as low wages, health systems failure to cope with the pandemic, as well as increase in femicides, disappearances of young people, and repressive measures in collusion with gangs. September 15th showed that there is a mass movement willing to confront Bukele's government, but the opposition parties, which also took to the streets, are not the solution. They have been part of the corrupt political regime aligned with capital that are far from the interests of the people. It is fundamental that the struggles undertaken by the workers, peasants, and the great masses against Bukele follow a course of independence of the bosses' parties as a whole. And, obviously that could apply to, in any, country that is seeking a more, socialist, leftist, inclination, right? So pretty interesting. That's a little bit of the backstory about what's going on in El Salvador. Now let's look at why Bitcoin is itself a scam, and why, it's pretty problematic that the El Salvadorian president adopted this. So let's take a look. Again, this is from the Mike Gravel, either way, Institute, right? Art Mahi, RIP.
Had a realization. Everybody wants to get rich.
Hold on. Let's do full.
In the early 1920s, a businessman in Boston had a realization. Everybody wants to get rich without doing any work. So this businessman came up with a brilliant idea to make a lot of money. And like all good financiers, he promised to make those around him really rich too. The businessman told his investors he was buying discounted coupons in foreign countries
Ponzi.
And making money reselling.
This is where the Ponzi scheme comes from.
There's a middleman opportunity that he claimed was totally safe and guaranteed a return. The businessman promised his investors a 50% profit in 45 days,
which is
or 100%
huge, right?
In 90 days.
Too good to be true type of thing. Kind of like Bitcoin.
Paying the people who got in early with the money for the people who got in later. Those later investors, excited by hearing about a guaranteed
their name is Charles Ponzi, right?
high return investment, were left holding the bag. That businessman was named Charles Ponzi.
Yep.
His name has become synonymous
Ponzi scheme.
with these sorts of schemes. This Ponzi scheme made millions of dollars in just a few months.
Until it fell like
But
a house
such a
of
con
cards.
can only go on for so long. Eventually, you run out of other people's money. And for Ponzi, when that happens, you go to jail. 100 years later, a new bunch of wealthy investors say they too have a brilliant way to make you a lot of money. They promise to make you really, really rich. The best part is, they say, the returns are guaranteed. Anyone can buy with any amount of money. It's called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a digital token with no physical or government backing that's run by a global decentralized network of computers. These computers keep track of every Bitcoin transaction, and can move bitcoins easily from one user to another. There are a limited number of bitcoins in the world, 21 million, 19 million of which have already been mined. These mining rigs are large systems of computers which perform complex calculations, expending huge amounts of energy to create new bitcoins. Massive Bitcoin mining farms are set up.
Also pretty, hugely, wasteful as far as the amount of energy that is in this Bitcoin mining process. Like, it takes a massive amount of energy to do this.
Places like Siberia and northeastern China, where people take advantage of cheap electricity in massive wasteful facilities. But how Bitcoin works doesn't really matter that much. All of the stuff you hear about peer-to-peer technology and the blockchain really only explains how Bitcoin works as a currency. But despite the name, Bitcoin isn't really used much as a currency at all.
More
When
like
people
an
buy
investment,
Bitcoin,
right?
They rarely use it to buy goods and services. They're really buying access to a Ponzi scheme. Only 1.3% of Bitcoin's economic activity is in merchant transactions. The rest is speculation.
Which is very small, right? Less than 2%.
People buying it just because they think it will go
up in value.
And the more it's used in speculation, the less incentive people have
to use it for currency. Yes.
Why buy something with Bitcoin when you can hold it and make some easy money? That's why the peak of Bitcoin being used to buy things was actually back in 2017, before its price
4 years ago.
It really took off. And the currency should be stable in value, not
which is
bounce
not
all over the place the way Bitcoin does.
Claire,
Rises are nice, but Bitcoin also falls a lot. If you want to speculate, that's fine. That's your own business. But you don't want the value of your checking account to gyrate wildly and unpredictably just because Elon
Which is what could happen to the people in El Salvador, right?
Has tweeted about it. If you have friends or relatives who are into cryptocurrency, you know that the reason that people are into Bitcoin is because they think it can make them a lot of money. Because Bitcoin is just a digital token without any inherent value, they're not really making an investment. They're engaging in a financial betting game. Anything you invest in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Dogecoin just goes into the pocket of the previous holder. There's no real income generating asset behind it. What they're betting on is that other people will bet on it and the value will keep going up. If more people are joining the market, you can make money. You're not a sucker if the person next in line is a sucker too. And as long as you can make it out on time, the next guy is left holding the bag.
Yeah.
The good news for these gamblers is that there are a lot of suckers in the world. The bad news is that eventually you run out of suckers.
Yes, and then
so to keep the scam running as long as they can, the wealthy proponents of Bitcoin say that it's changing the world. They say that Bitcoin is going to replace fiat currencies like the dollar. They say that it's going to undermine cruel dictatorships and greedy banks and help usher in a libertarian utopia of privacy and security. And most importantly, they say what every scam artist has said since the beginning of time. Get in right now and you'll make quick and easy money. Don't miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And for the last few years, they've actually been right. If you'd spent $100 on buying shares of Apple in January 2016, you'd have about $540 now. If you spent that $100 on Bitcoin, then you'd have made more than $9,000. But that doesn't mean that Bitcoin is working. It means that a lot of people have fallen for the scam.
Yeah,
and the more people who buy it, the more the price fluctuates, and the less usable it is as a currency. The success of Bitcoin as a speculative commodity has made it socially useless. You'd actually have made just as much money buying a parody cryptocurrency called Dogecoin that makes none of the grandiose claims that Bitcoin does. In fact, it explicitly started as a joke.
Yep.
Meanwhile, as more and more people speculate,
the person who developed Dogecoin, I forget their name, but he actually talked about how cryptocurrency is inherently, capitalist, right?
Bitcoin, it consumes more and more electricity and emits more and more carbon. Because of how complex Bitcoin transactions are,
huge-ass
they
computers.
Consume an incredible amount of power. One Bitcoin transaction consumes more electricity than the average American household does in a month.
Jesus.
Bitcoin as a whole consumes more
One Bitcoin transaction takes more electricity than an American household uses in a month. And, we use a lot of energy here in the United States, so that's pretty a pretty damning indictment, right?
Than entire countries, Venezuela, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, and the Philippines. If Bitcoin ever were to be widely adopted, it would consume many times more energy than is produced in the world today.
It's not good.
Bitcoin isn't useful at all, except maybe as a symbol of how capitalism has changed. From something that could once build factories and transcontinental railroads to a system of pure speculation, totally divorced from the real world. Look at this system.
I think he's giving capitalism a little bit too much credit, but anyways.
Millions of computers emitting huge amounts of carbon, making pointless calculations in order to gain access to a digital token with no actual use, all while the infrastructure crumbles and people go hungry. This is a terrible way to organize a society.
Agreed with
But
that
because
part.
Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme without any benefit to society does not mean it's going away. Bitcoin has become a culture, an identity. Amid the vast meaninglessness of a society in decline, a lot of people find value in it.
Empire
In a world where traditional forms of identity are in decline, family, unions, religion, new ones like cryptocurrencies spring up to take their place. The fact that so many lonely, atomized people find community and meaning in Bitcoin means that for the people at the very top, people with millions or even billions of dollars, there's a ready and willing community of suckers to exploit. You can still make money off cryptocurrencies. In an age of low wages and mass underemployment, people will always be lured by the promise of getting rich quick. But there will always be somebody left holding the bag. And it could very well be you. In essence, Bitcoin is a gamble. Gambling can be fun at low stakes with friends. But the people trying to sell you Bitcoin aren't your friends. No matter what you tell yourself, you're just gambling. Not that an asset has value, but that the person next in line is
thinks
more
it has
valuable than
value.
you.
Yeah.
This is Doug Henwood, author of Wall Street for the Gravel Institute.
There we go. So pretty interesting there. I think all those points are pretty well taken, except maybe about kind of talking up capitalism. But besides that, and so this is what, why the people in El Salvador are rightly, pissed off at the president there, Nayib Bukele, I believe, instituting Bitcoin as the legal currency there, and not good, along with all the other messed up things that government is also doing at this point. So like the video if you like the damn video, subscribe for more content, all part of the people. Peace, much love.